days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. I'm going to talk about the game plan for the 49ers versus the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. I can't really wait to get into this. This is one of my favorite episodes, of course, to get to break down everything that I've learned during the week about the Carolina Panthers. How much film I watched of them against the Arizona Cardinals is ridiculous. Trying to figure out exactly how Kyle Shanahan and Demeco Ryans plan on attacking this Carolina Panthers offense and defense. Their offense and defense are pretty talented. They have players here and there that are really, really good, but they haven't been able to be very successful. Now, the defense has played pretty well, and they're led by Brian Burns, a defensive end. He does a really good job. At the second level, they have Shaq Thompson, who I'm very familiar with. He's a good player as well. And then they have J.C. Horn, who last year was drafted out of South Carolina as the corner that plays on the left side. The Panthers don't really run a lot of difficult defensive concepts. But let's get to know their coaches a little bit. Of course, you have head coach Matt Rhule. He's in his third year. Came over from Baylor, brought in the LSU former offensive coordinator after they had the big explosion with Joe Burrow and all that. But Joe Brady's gone. He fired him after not even a full season. He got rid of him and he moved on. And who he moved on to was Ben McAdoo. And if Ben McAdoo sounds familiar, he was the offensive coordinator for Eli Manning with the New York Giants and eventually took over that position and became the head coach. He had pretty good success for a little while as an offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, no success. The offense really struggled. So McAdoo's system is not very complex. It's very easy to figure out. Their personnel groupings give away a lot of what they do, and that's just that simple. The film wasn't difficult to figure out. Hey, well, they're in a two tight end set, either run or play action. It's not a drop back pass. That's how easy it was to figure out for me. I wonder how easy it is for the 49ers. Now, I'm sure McAdoo's got something special planned for this 49ers defense, but that's who the offensive coordinator is, and that's important when you're trying to figure out exactly how you're going to attack a team, and that's what Demeco Ryans has to figure out from all his film study. The defensive coordinator is Phil Snow. Phil Snow came over from Baylor. That's where he was with Matt Rhule, and he's done a pretty good job. This defense is 12th overall in DVOA. That's pretty good. So they're one of the, upper half defenses in this league, and you can see why they have pretty good talent. And finding a way to attack them is fun. They run a 4-3 defense, and a lot of times that means bringing up, a guy out on the end. They bring up their outside linebacker, Julu, and he comes up, and he does a pretty good job. He really does set the edge at a high level. And that's going to play a part into this game plan and how exactly the 49ers plan to attack. So let's start on offense, because the offense has been topic of conversation for a few weeks now, especially since Jimmy Garoppolo took the helm in Seattle. They had the early success, and then Denver, it fell off. And then the Rams, they had success again. I think the Rams came at the perfect time. Number one, it was somebody that Jimmy Garoppolo felt comfortable playing. Number two, it was somebody that Kyle Shanahan felt comfortable playing. Not only does he know Sean McVay, but he knows Raheem Morris as well. So it came at the right time, and he was able to kind of use the parts differently than he was going to use them with Trey Lance to be able to have some success. And they did find some success, and they were able to score 17 points on offense. You would say that's not a lot of success, but it's enough when you have the caliber defense that you have. Now, would we like them to get more? Yes, and they're going to have to continue to improve if they're going to beat some of the teams that remain on their schedule. Teams like Kansas City, teams like the Los Angeles Chargers, teams like Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those teams are not going to be easy to defeat if the offense doesn't round into form. 23 to 24 points a game is what the 49ers offense should be able to account for, yet they have struggled to do so. So that is a goal for the San Francisco 49ers to get that number up to 23 to 24 per game, and they've got a long way to go. Their two losses this year, they didn't score more than 10. So the key for the 49ers is scoring more points. And how do you do that against this Carolina Panthers defense? Well, first off, if you're going to run the ball, run it at Brian Burns. That's right. I know that doesn't sound right, but you can run at Burns. He's very good. He's a good player, but you have an advantage there if you can get underneath him. And I think that is a strength of this 49ers offense is the run game. Normally, you would say, hey, don't run at their best player. But in this situation, I don't think he's so good that you don't run at him. So take advantage of him, get him back on his heels, make third and short situations come to fruition, because if you do, Jimmy Garoppolo should be able to convert on those. And the reason I say that is last year in 2021, Jimmy Garoppolo did really good on third down, especially when the 49ers were in their winning streak. The key is having it third and short. The threat of run and pass is what's so important for this 49ers offense. So running at Burns sometimes is the way to attack, because the other guy on the other side, he's pretty good, that linebacker. So they have a good defense, Carolina does, and got to be able to attack. But the other thing is this Panthers defense likes to play off with their cornerbacks. They like to play underneath, play zone coverage a lot. They try to keep their eye disciplined, but their eyes can get confused with motions. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan's going to dial up a ton of motion this week to help reveal coverage. I would even expect more than one motion pre-snap. So get out of the huddle early, motion a guy across the formation, let Carolina think that's your motion, and then motion him back and see if they reveal anything. See if anyone's coming on blitz. They're not afraid to blitz. They're not afraid to zone blitz. Zone blitz means bring a corner, bring a safety, a linebacker, and then drop off one of these guys to the line of scrimmage, a Brian Burns or a interior defensive lineman. They did it pretty consistently. You have to be able to locate post-snap. That's another key for Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't just go with your pre-snap read this week. The way they run defense, they like to try to confuse you post-snap. Try not to give away. They try to show a shell coverage, so they show one look. Might look like a cover three. Sometimes it's a two-deep safety look. And what they're trying to do is get you comfortable with that, and then they change on the fly. That is something Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to decipher in this game. And if he can, the 49ers could have tremendous success against this Carolina Panthers defense. They've only produced 4 sacks. That is good news for the 49ers. But 49ers have to take a little bit of the branding away from Carolina and just keep pounding, because they got to pound that rock and really establish this run game and set up a play action where Jimmy Garoppolo can get rollouts and throw the football. That is available this week. Move this defense. They want to be aggressive. Move them horizontally and create windows to be able to throw the football. Get Shaq Thompson and the linebackers to go one way, come out the other side, and be able to throw the ball. And if you catch him in the blitz, absolutely take advantage of it. Now, where Kyler Murray struggled last week in Arizona is he would throw it deep when he was under pressure. He would just throw it deep in one-on-one situations, and there would be underneath receivers open. Jimmy Garoppolo has to take what the defense gives him. Kyle Shanahan's going to dial it up. There are plays over the middle that are going to be available where Jimmy is strong. If they're running a cover 3, you're going to get the same concepts that you normally get. You're going to get that hook out here on the one side with the corner route going. That puts that cornerback in a vertical stretch to have to decide, and that makes it tough for the linebacker to be able to get over. So there's lots of opportunities for the 49ers in this game. I don't expect Carolina to run very much man coverage, so it's going to be a lot of zone. Jimmy Garoppolo does pretty well, but the receivers are going to have to sit down in the right locations. That's important. It was just last week that the 49ers, I called for them to run choice routes, and they did run some choice routes. The problem was Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't even on the same page with George Kittle. Kittle broke inside. Jimmy Garoppolo threw it outside. So getting on the same page is important. Whenever you throw it over the middle, just make sure, Jimmy, you don't throw it too high. Get that ball down. Let these guys make plays. I think that's the key on offense. Run the football, and then run play action off that. Get this defensive group's eyes looking one way, come out the other way, where you move them horizontally, and then you're able to take advantage of throwing. And don't be afraid to run at Brian Burns. Brian Burns is a good player, but he can be beat. And I've been watching him since he was at Florida State. That you can run at him, and I think that will help establish this game. But there's no one place you have to scheme around. There's Aaron Donald's not there. You don't have to scheme around Aaron Donald. You can play Carolina straight up. This is not the best defense the 49ers have seen this year. The best defense they saw was in Denver, and they weren't able to get a lot of points against them. So they've got to be able to handle this. I think they can. Now, for the other side of the ball, they got Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's going to be leading this team, and if you start talking about the weapons, they have a lot. CMC, Christian McCaffrey, got a lot of ability. He can get 100 yards rushing, 100 yards passing. You can line him up all over the field. Locating him with Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner is going to be important. That's number one. Demeco said so at his press conference as well. We have to make sure we know where 22 is. That's first off. Second off, find DJ Moore. DJ Moore has a lot of ability. He's just not used right. I mean, that's one thing that McAdoo hasn't figured out, is how to use these guys creatively. He doesn't use McCaffrey creatively enough. He doesn't use DJ Moore creatively enough. And if Laviska Shenault played, he wouldn't use him either. It's just not something McAdoo has done so far with this team, which is shocking. It's like he doesn't know what to do with them. So I think the 49ers have some, keys that they're going to have to take advantage of, but the offense is pretty simple. Figuring out what they're going to run, personnel groupings. You're going to see Demetrius Flanagan fouls this week. So it's going to be important for him in run fits because they will go 2 tight ends to one side, and then they will try to run you weak. That is kind of their game. That's kind of what McAdoo does. That's probably why they liked him in New York at first. Is the style at which they run. It fits kind of what Peyton Manning or Eli Manning did. It doesn't fit what Baker Mayfield does. So it's either 2 tight ends or it's wide open. There's no in between for the Carolina Panthers. There's not a lot of creativity with their formations or personnel groupings. So it's going to make it easy for the 49ers to figure out what to do when they get on the field. So what do you have to do to stop Baker Mayfield in this offense? Put pressure on Baker Mayfield. If you put pressure on Baker Mayfield, it could be 4 or 5 guys, whatever it is. If you decide to bring a blitz, just put pressure on him. He gets happy feet and he wants to get rid of the football. That is the key for this game. You got so much pressure on Matthew Stafford last week. If you can duplicate that performance against Baker Mayfield, not only will you get sacks against him, but he will turn over the football. He's not one that wants to throw the football away. He wants to try to make something happen, and that means forcing the football where 49ers can drive on it and make plays. Part of the problem with going against a 49ers defense is you don't really have the luxury of having a wide receiver on the outside that can beat these corners one-on-one. That's not what Carolina has. They don't have that big-time wide receiver that you have to worry about winning consistently against them enough that they would have to give safety help, which means, yes, that's right, Talanoa Hufanga is going to be in the box making a lot of big plays and following around what's going to happen with DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. And that's a key, using these linebackers. And that was in my game preview show. One of the keys was these linebackers on Christian McCaffrey. And I said, throw Talanoa Hufanga in that as well, because those 3 guys locating him and varying the looks on who's guarding him is going to be very important to Demeco Ryans' success. But because there's no fear of one of those players besides McCaffrey coming out of the backfield, you're going to be able to figure out what they're going to do. So I think this defense is well equipped to handle them. I look for them to blitz Baker Mayfield. I look for them to get under his skin early and for Baker to turn over the football. But it all starts with stopping the run. If you can stop Christian McCaffrey, which we don't know exactly who's going to start on the interior defensive line, but if you can stop McCaffrey from getting plays to the outside, from taking advantage of screen plays and using your aggressiveness against you, then this is going to be tough sledding for the Carolina Panthers. Baker Mayfield doesn't have the arm talent to be able to get the ball to these weapons so they can make plays consistently. That's what the 49ers have to force them to do. So if Demeco Ryans disguises coverage and comes after Baker Mayfield, I look for the 49ers to have a lot of success against Carolina, but it all starts with stopping the run game and Christian McCaffrey. So that is the game plan video for this episode, or for this week. I really enjoyed bringing it to you. 49ers versus Panthers is going to be a lot of fun. A little bit different matchup than we saw last week against the Rams. There's a lot more history there. Not much history with this 49ers versus Carolina team because Matt Rule has never faced off against the San Francisco 49ers. In 2019, it wasn't Rule's regime. It was a different coaching staff with a different quarterback, and it did not go well for the Panthers. 51-13 for the San Francisco 49ers. They thought they were coming in there hot, and they were going to shut down the 49ers. Didn't happen. In that game, Tevin Coleman over 105 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns running the football, and 1 receiving. It was a huge game for Coleman. Warriors can have similar success in how they go against this defense, but it's completely different. Ready to write a new story. 49ers versus Carolina Panthers this Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Join me for the game reaction show immediately following the football game. We'll get all into everything that happened in the game and have a nice conversation. And course, because it's interactive, you guys can steer the conversation. Come in and let me know what you thought of the game. We'll have some conversation back and forth. I will read your comments. It'll be a lot of fun. I hope you join me for that game reaction show. But have a good weekend. Watch some college football. Watch some NFL. And enjoy the 49ers, hopefully getting a victory against this Carolina Panthers. And until next time, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.